Hi everybody, Jeremy Siskind here. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing great. And I'm the author of Jazz Piano Fundamentals. That's a series playing solo jazz piano and a bunch of arrangements called Solo Standards for Piano. Go over to jeremysiskind.com, check all those out. Today's video, lecture, masterclass, workshop is really going to cover some stuff that gets covered in Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 1, which is really designed for people who do not have any jazz experience and want to have a basic understanding of jazz. So today, the video is titled First Lesson in Jazz Piano Comping. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to first fix this camera. That's embarrassing. That was going to be such a slick little transition. Didn't happen. Okay, so I'm going to do a little demo of how comping would sound. We're going to talk about where comping comes from. We're going to look at some common notation that you're going to see in jazz charts. And then I'm going to teach you specific patterns and show you some ways to practice those patterns. So that's the game plan, so that you feel just at least oriented in terms of jazz piano comping. What we're not going to talk about today is voicings. Like, I don't want to get into, how to form the chords. I've got a lot of videos about that. I'm going to link some that I think come up as thumbnails somewhere around this area. So let's start with a demo. I'm going to comp for a blues in swing style, and we're going to be talking mostly about comping in a swing style. And when I say swing, I don't mean swing bands of the 1930s and 20s. I mean anything with a general swing beat, swing, bebop, hard bop, any of those kinds of jazzy styles. Not bossa nova, samba, etc. Salsa. Not going to get into that today. So what's going to happen is my left hand is going to simulate what the bass would be doing, and my right hand is going to be doing the comping. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So some basics about comping. Let me start with a funny story. I once gave a presentation in China, in Shanghai, China, at the Shanghai Conservatory, and they asked me what I wanted the title to be, and I said it would be called Comping 101. But when I arrived, things were a bit lost in translation, and my presentation was titled Camping 101. So we talked about how to pitch a tent, how to make sure you're safe from bears. No, I'm just kidding. We didn't do that. We talked about comping. But it does bring up this issue of the word comping. And there's two different supposed origins, and they both work nicely together. On one hand, people say that comping is an abbreviation for accompanying. This is what we do at the piano when we're accompanying a melody or a soloist. On the other hand, people say that comping is short for complementing, like you're fitting in just exactly right with the rest of the band. So both of those things are true, and they kind of work together. Now, as you might have heard, when I comp as a professional jazz pianist, the comping is what we might think of as unpatterned. It's responsive to what else is going on in the music. In that case, it was responsive to what was going on in the imagined music. I like to compare comping to a boxer throwing punches, right? They're not certainly boxing and throwing punches randomly. They're reacting to what's going on around them. But they're not going to be punching in a pattern, right? So it's neither random nor is it patterned. It's, I guess we can say, dynamic, reactive. So how do we decide where comping comes from? So I think of three sources for comping. So one is the song. Okay. What's the form of the song? Obviously, what are the chords of the song? We're getting the chords of the song. What is the melody of the song? How might we best complement the melody of the song? Are there any particular stylistic details? What's the lyric? Are there moments where we might want to stop if the lyric says stop? What's the phrasing? When we're comping, we're often looking for where nothing else is happening, and that's a good place to do something more active with your comping. Okay, so the song is the first thing that really determines how we're going to comp. The second one, which is huge, is the style. Okay, comping needs to be appropriate for whatever style you're playing. For instance, if I were playing that exact same progression, but in a salsa, Afro-Cuban kind of a style, I would make completely different choices, really, in both hands. But play what we call a montuno, which is a different subject for a different day. So we need to have a mastery of each style, or, at the beginning you're not going to have a mastery, but a familiarity, a strategy to go with each style, because comping for swing, different than comping for bossa nova, different than comping for salsa, different than comping for a ballad. And then the third thing is the actual moment, right? Just like a boxer, we might practice our moves, our combinations, our jabs. I don't know anything about boxing. But then maybe our opponent's going to surprise us, right? And we want to be reacting to that. And that includes everything. It includes the acoustics, what instrument, like exactly how your piano sounds, the balance of everything. And then literally, especially if somebody's improvising, what they're improvising and how they're going to play. For instance, you can listen in Kind of Blue to different soloists. Miles Davis comes out and plays very sparsely. Ba, ba, ba. This is Freddie Freeloader. Ba, ba, bo, do, ba. Bo, do, ba, dee, da. So he's leaving a lot of space. So the accompanist might want to be a little bit more active to fill that space. Versus when John Coltrane starts playing, he plays in his kind of sheets of sound style. Lots of flurries, barely any breaths, 16th notes, 32nd notes, outlining the harmony. And so the accompanist might want to do less, right? And it's not just the soloist, it's also, the drummer in a band is also comping. Their snare drum and their bass drum are used for comping. So if they're very busy, you might want to complement them by playing a little bit less. So those are the three things to me that are, forming the comping for each moment, each performance that goes in. Okay, so just a couple of notations to be familiar with. And here I am going to the book of Jazz Piano Fundamentals, Book 1. This is page 29 if you're following along in your hymnals at home. And this is going to be mostly if you're playing in a larger group with arrangements, including a big band. But you might see what we call slash notation or comping notation in your charts, and it just looks like this. And this is telling you that you should improvise your part. Now, if if there's text and it says solo, then you're going to improvise melodies that are supposed to be out in front. If it doesn't say that, or if it says comp, then you're going to be comping chords. The other kind of notation that we use for comping is called rhythmic notation, or we might think of it as hit notation. These are X's on the staff. They're usually on the middle line of the staff. And these indicate a specific rhythm that the arranger wants you to play. And these are usually used because multiple instrumentalists are going to play together. Okay? So I gave this example of this passage here, and where that X is on the staff has nothing to do with the pitch that they want you to play. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So they want you to play those chords with that rhythm. So 3, 4, 1. Okay. All right. So those are two styles of notating comping. One gives you total rhythmic freedom. The other is defining your rhythm, but you get to choose exactly which notes to play as far as those chords go, because you might be familiar with that. Voicing is this whole art in jazz. Okay, so comping is dynamic. It's reactive to what's going on, but we still need to know some things about the swing style. And so when I teach, and in my books, I like to start students with patterns that are really appropriate for the swing style. And then as they go on, I encourage them to vary from those patterns. So in this book one, a lot of focus is on two patterns, the Charleston and reverse Charleston, but then there are some variations mentioned later. And then in book two, do I have it here? Yep, it's a purple book. There's 4 more patterns and many more variations. And as students get towards a year into their piano studies, their jazz piano studies, I would want them to not be thinking in patterns, not be playing in a patterned way. So what are these 2 patterns that really dominate so much of this book? And for my students, I believe they're a great place to start. So they're commonly called the Charleston and the reverse Charleston. And the Charleston is a rhythm with chords on beat 1 and the and of 2. Da, 4, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. That's the way to demonstrate it. Okay. And this is named after a piece that launched a dance craze. It's by pianist James P. Johnson, and it goes something like... Hear that rhythm? 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. Okay. Now, a couple really important basic things as you work to play this pattern. So in jazz, we want to almost always comp with the entire chord together. In pop music, if you're playing chords, you might do something like this. We could think of it as arpeggiating a chord. No good in jazz. We want to be percussive with the chords. So we're going to play all 4 fingers exactly together. And you notice I'm playing it staccato, short and percussive, but not loud, not screaming. My oral image is a brush hitting a snare drum. Common question that I get is that the 2 chords here are notated as 1 quarter note and 1/8 note. But so people ask, should they be played different lengths? And the answer is no. This is actually a quirk of notation, that we want people to be able to see the beats. So when we have chords or melody notes on the beat that last for 1 beat, we usually notate them as a quarter note so we can see that beat clearly. But if they're off the beat, we notate them as an 8th note. So this is not, what's the word? Showing. That's not the word I'm looking for. But that's good enough. It's not showing length. We want to play these equally crisp and short. Now the reverse Charleston, so this is the Charleston. The reverse Charleston pushes both of those comps rhythmically back by an 8th note. So instead of being on beat 1, we're on the and of 1. Instead of being on the and of 2, we're on beat 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Snapping, playing, and counting. Hard to do at the same time. So you notice both of these patterns have 1 offbeat and 1 onbeat. And this is pretty good rule of thumb for jazz comping. We want to mix things on the beat and comps off the beat. Now, how do you practice these? The very first thing that I would do, I have here is coordination exercise 2, and I would play your scales, all your major scales. If you want to do your minor scales, great, comping in these rhythms. Then letter B. And then letter C alternates 1 measure of Charleston, 1 measure of reverse Charleston. And letter D does the reverse. So this is only written in C major, but I trust that you guys can figure this out in some different melodies, for some different keys, excuse me. And then the book gives you an assignment, which is to practice comping the chords for at least 3 jazz standards practicing each piece 4 ways. 1, comping the Charleston all the way through. 2, comping the reverse Charleston all the way through. 3, alternating between the patterns, starting with Charleston, and 4, alternating between the 2 patterns, starting with reverse Charleston. And by the way, my book always gives assignments at the end of each chapter, so those assignments are listed once again at the end. This is unit 2 of the book. So you'd go through and you say, okay, take the A train. Can I practice that with the Charleston? Right. Can I practice it with the reverse Charleston? It's going to take practice. I practice this. Then alternating, because you want to get this so deep in your subconscious that you don't have to think about it at all. The comping needs to be just out of mind, out of sight, so that you can focus on your melodies and your improvisations and all those good things. All right, folks, that is it for our first lesson in jazz piano comping. Stay tuned for a second lesson at some point if you like this. But if you want to really get a jump on this, Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 1 is the place to be. Or you can join my remote college class through Fullerton College. I'll be happy to give you any information about that. All right. If you made it this far, say something about camping in your comments. Thank you for watching, everybody. Take care.